The mouse is moving too fast.
Do you want to stop it again, Veronica?
No, I'm good.
Quorum, we're gonna stand by for 9 o'clock to make sure everyone can participate.
Then we got Sergeant Olinger here. How are you? When county gives their update and quick high level update on the county property act.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any public?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, really good. Yeah, that's fine. Somewhere. That they said they got, so. Yeah. Good to have. Yeah. That's what that's the. Yeah. Got it. I was a drastic. I was used to, and I was not sure how it would be taken, but.
All right, good morning, all. It's 9 o'clock. Veronica, are you ready to start?
Veronica, just to confirm, I can't get the Zoom to load. Can you see the PowerPoint?
I can,
Did the screen just change?
yes. May I ask the two ladies that just walked in, the names?
Yeah, can we get your names for the public?
Sure thing. My name is Jessie Goodwin. My name is Anna Colbert, and we're representing the children today. We're just observing.
Jessie Goodwin and Anna. Veronica, I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
You guys aren't looking to speak, just,
No,
all right, go.
Veronica, make sure you can hear me.
Vaguely, barely.
So, I believe we have quorum present.
Terry, can you hear her?
It's very,
It's very low.
yeah, low.
If we have quorum.
We do.
Hang on, I'm switching out my mic.
Test.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
you can hear me better now. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 9:02, and I believe we have quorum present. Is that correct, Veronica?
Yes,
Okay, great. So first, official order of business is public input. I believe we have some public here, but I don't believe they want to speak, just observing. Veronica, do you have anybody online that needs to speak?
no,
Great. So then we'll move on to the approval of minutes for December 2022. And if I can have a motion to approve, please.
Actually have a change.
Okay. Mr. Sneed has a change.
Under item V, aggressive ticketing,
Yes.
very last sentence, there's a word that's spelled incorrectly.
Okay.
As we hire
Yep.
more ticket agents. So if that could be corrected, everything else looks fine to me.
where is that? I'm sorry.
Item 5, aggressive ticketing, the last sentence should be higher, HIRE, but it's higher as in elevation.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No worries, I still love you.
John, will you make
Sure.
a motion to approve with changes?
I move to approve with said changes.
And can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Scott seconds, all approved?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll move on to parking budget in fiscal year 24.
All right, quick recap. We didn't have quorum last month. So those that were here, we just did a quick overview, and this is kind of some repeat information for those of you that were present in January. Last fiscal year, we made a 3-year parking fee recommendation to cover FY 23, 24, and 25. FY 23, which is the current year, some of the revision highlights. First 30 minutes are now free instead of up to 1 hour. Actually, instead of up to an hour and a half at the Market and Second Street decks, now up to 1 hour is $1. The max fee went from 10 to 12 at Market, Second, and both surface lots. Monthly fee increased from 60 to 75 at Market, actually at all the locations. On Street went from $1.50 an hour to $2 per hour, and the Convention Center had a kind of a fee restructure, and the max fee went up to 15, and the max event fee went up to 15. The idea was to have some smaller incremental changes over the course of 3 years, so it was a little bit less impactful and absorbable to those utilizing the parking facilities. The year 2 FY 24, there's just a few recommendations this year. The first is the on-street increase from $2 to $2.50. The 3-year recommendation was 50 cents per year, so 150 to 2 to 250, which would be FY 24. And then next year would go up to a $3 per hour recommendation. River Place has 2 recommendations, the up to 8-hour rate from 8 to 9 and the 8 to 24-hour rate from 13 up to 14. And the Convention Center max event rate recommendation for the large events and concerts. And really, this is mainly geared toward the Live Oak Bake special event concert rate, going from 15 up to 20. And then kind of an update on where we are compared to our benchmarks. Comparison on street, we are still down 35 cents as we sit now with the $2 per hour. If we do get approval and the 250 per hour is adopted, would be right at the cusp of that benchmark. The off-street rates at Market and Second Street, we're still down $1.16 for the first hour. For Place, we're pretty close. The all-day rate Market and Second, we're down $6.38 for the all-day rate. River Place, we're a little bit closer. And the monthly is where there's still a huge variance compared to our benchmarks. Market and Second, we're down $70.63 per month compared to our benchmarks. And at River Place, a little bit less. As you know, the Market and Second Street rates are at 75, River Place is at 120. So that's why there's the variance between those two. But on average, our benchmark monthly fee is $130.63. So big difference there. And in looking at most of our benchmarks too, there aren't any discounted rates. There's no merchant rate. There's no rooftop rate. There's no daytime rate. It's just a flat monthly fee, market fee. And just a reminder, some of the benchmarks we do utilize for comparison: Durham, Raleigh, Savannah, Asheville, the surrounding beach communities, Richmond's in there, Greensboro, and a handful of others in there as well. And before we go back for a kind of a formal request for action on the FY24 recommendations, just a quick update on this year's budget requests, as they're all tied into the fees and revenues coming in. Budget request went into the budget office January 31st. Some enhancements, we were requesting $100,000 in funding for a smart camera loading zone. We talked to Deepak about this a few months ago. That's really up to 10 cameras on to be determined corners, so we can start grabbing loading data, vehicular data, pedestrian data, illicit parking data, and so on. Requesting an additional $600,000 for the Second Street Deck rehab project in the next phases. Current phase is about to wrap up. That was close to 2.3 million, I think is where we're going to land. And speaking with our engineers, there's, we kind of handled the worst of the worst. And that's a 32-year-old or 31-year-old parking deck. There's going to be constant rehab and repair and maintenance needs moving forward. Their recommendation with all-in engineering costs was to request an additional $600,000 to kind of start the next phase of repairs. And we're estimating in an addition of $234,000 in expense for the new parking contractor contract. We have an RFP out there that's live now, and we kind of base those additional expense estimates on some of the bids we got in the fall. And an item that's not included in next year's budget request is just the Market Street elevator modernization. We're looking at probably about $400,000+ for that. So that's a future CIP request. So we're not asking for the continual fee increase just to, continue padding the parking fund. There's some hefty expenses coming in that really all those extra revenues coming in from the fee increase are going to go toward. So with that, I will open it up for any questions. And I guess post question, we're looking for an action item on the FY24 parking fee recommendation. Mic on.
With the rehab projects, what's the life on the project?
Current rehab project is about to wrap up, I'd say in the next 60 days. The next phase, which I guess technically is phase 3 of that project. We still have to complete that visual survey and spec out the actual construction piece of that. It's probably another, if we're lucky and we can move fairly quickly, we might be mobilizing and awarding a contract a year from now. And then probably 6 months to a year's worth of work.
When the work is complete, what's the life of the work that's actually done before? These parking
like
decks
the finished product.
Yes, yes.
I would say I don't know if I know the answer to that. I would say in general rule of thumb, the life of a parking deck is roughly about 50 years. I think as we put funding into it and make these needed repairs, it will extend it a little bit. But at this point, 30+ year old deck, there's always going to be a revolving need for repairs at this point, just especially due to our coastal conditions, salty air. So.
Chance, I do have one thing for 23. I don't see any provisions for meter enhancements for Live Oak events. Has that discussion occurred at all? In other words, people can come downtown and park at 5:30 and pay $1 to park at the meter, $1.50, and get free parking for their whole Live Oak Nation event. I know last year CFCC saw incredible impact on 4th and 5th Streets with these meters and 3rd as well. So I didn't know if we had any plan for this season of Live Oak to revise rates or do anything as far as on street is concerned.
In the budget requests and as it stands now, no. I know you brought that up last month and there was some roundtable discussion. It's probably top of our list to really put an organized parking management plan together for the Brooklyn Arts 4th, 5th Street area. This next fiscal year, I say that probably this calendar year. And I think what plays into that now is, our next agenda item, which is the potential city relocating up to the PPD North End. I think all of that falls together in one large package. So I would say this calendar year, we'll be bringing hopefully a plan and some options to DPAC. I think specifically looking at meters associated to the Live Oak, it's tricky. I'm sure we can come up with some options because I think you want it to be an advantage for the merchants and those not coming down to the event. At the same time, you want to maximize the revenues from those coming down to the event. And having the line in the sand there geographically downtown and trying to achieve both could be tricky. Is it doable? I'm sure.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And like I've told you before, we see thousands of people parking further south and not hesitating to walk the blocks. So I understand the concern, but I do see street parking being readily consumed on the nights of Live Oak. So I think that's an area that we could look at to maybe capitalize revenue, but the solution is not an easy one, my friend.
Yeah, I think one of the two biggest challenges in putting some managed parking together and on 4th, especially 4th and those artery streets there, has been the lack of off-street parking options. So if you're really forcing everyone to pay that's utilizing that street, and they don't really have anywhere to go for long-term parking except for east into the neighborhoods. So I think that's been the biggest challenge. And if the PPD Thermo Fisher acquisition comes to fruition, I think the city will then have a pretty big inventory of off-street parking that could service, even though it's across 3rd Street, it still has the ability to service those longer term needs on the north end.
I realize it's further down the agenda, but I'll go ahead and ask the question.
Michael.
Mike on.
What's the inventory at Thermo Fisher, as far as the deck underneath flat lots?
Yeah, I'll
Do
go
you have
through
an
it
idea?
in detail, but it's a total of right at 1,500 plus spaces. It's 1,022 in the deck, 280 underneath the building, and 240, 250 on that surface lot. I think 240 is on paper, I actually counted like 255 on the surface lot. So it's 1,500 plus.
I mean, I know it's always going to be a contentious subject to extend paid parking past, what is it right now? 5:30, 6:30, 6:30. So, I mean, that's really one of the only ways we address it, right?
That's
mean,
another, yeah.
Yeah, that's an option. I mean, I have concerns, obviously, because in the past when we've, especially during the winter months, when we've exceeded light, people are out there with flashlights trying to enforce parking, and it has been difficult for the ambassadors in the past. Like I said, I don't know that there's an easy solution, but I see people definitely taking advantage of paying, $2, $3 for parking and get parking for the whole night, as versus entities such as CFCC and others paying $15, $20 for event parking.
Terry, are you hearing complaints from your constituents down there?
Mainly the ones on the north end of, 310 Pallet and those guys. Pier 33, there's a restaurant that's going to be opening pretty soon. Well, they're breaking ground now, so it'll be really the first business opening in that commercial space. I think they're hoping to see people lining up down the street, but I think they're going to be impacted with some parking issues. So hopefully, Chance is going to give us more good news about the PPD thing, because it will definitely severely limit even access in that area, because after the concerts, people are walking in the street. You can't really, it's hard to even drive down Nut Street after a concert.
I mean, are your constituents going to be adamantly opposed to extending paid parking to maybe 8:30 or 9:30 or whatever it needs to be?
I think around town, if we did it as a whole, I think we're going to feel some backlash. Didn't we, the last time we discussed this, we were pushing, what were we considering adding parking on Sunday or something? We were looking at other options versus running later, but
Yes, Scott, we had discussed kind of off record, that subject got brought up. And it always does, every year it gets brought up. Once again, there's not a great answer.
Every year.
And I always point to Charleston about how, and how they did it wrong, and they retracted everything, went back to their 6:30. I think we need to do a full analysis and bring it to the group and kind of show what it's going to cost us to extend hours, what the revenues are going to be, in addition to a potential northern solution. And I think the DPAC committee members, especially, Terry, Justin, those associated, WDI associated to the merchants and businesses downtown, need to, really get some feedback from that and what that's going to be.
It would be painful.
I think Lynn's potential idea was to draw a line in the sand on the north end and south end, and for the events, maybe Red Cross North have an elevated extended meter fee, because from that point north, there's less, minus the Brooklyn Arts Center or the Brooklyn Arts District, there's less storefront retail that's going to get impacted, versus south of Red Cross, there is essentially mainly storefront retail restaurants that are going to get impacted, but it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Another option was to take some baby steps and look at maybe enforcement on Sunday first. Doesn't help the concert situation. But it pushes some much needed turnover on Sundays, which I think has been lacking for a long time. It's tough to get an on-street space from Sunday after 11 o'clock. So I think Jeff and I have some work to do, and we need to do some hefty analysis on what it's going to cost, what that revenue is going to be, some solutions, especially in the Brooklyn Arts area, where we're going to have to, have some CapEx expenditures for meters, multi-space meters, or is that all, I don't know, pay by cell type option. So I think Jeff and I need to put some ideas together, run some numbers, and bring it back to the group to kind of take back to the stakeholders.
Thank you, sir. And you need a motion to approve this budget?
Yep, seeking a motion to approve
So-
the FY 24 recommendations of on-street from 2 to 250, River Place 8-hour rate 9, all-day rate 14, and the convention center up to 20.
So I will take a motion to approve.
Can you
So
go back?
moved.
Go
I'll
back
move.
to slide one?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you. And I'll take a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Hearing none, motion passes. All right, Chance, we'll move on to your update about PPD.
think my slides might be out of order, but that's
The
okay.
nerve.
Maybe not. There we go. Some last minute revisions here. All right, forgive me if I don't get this information 100% accurate. It's a lot of moving parts. And a very quick time frame for city standards here. So big news item in the last 2 weeks was the city's intention to purchase the PPD Thermo Fisher campus here on the north end. Been for sale since late calendar year 22. And city got approval from council to pursue an offer of 68 million for the entire purchase of the campus. I was just made aware that PPD has accepted that offer.
To clarify, campus includes building, surface lots, and deck.
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Sorry. So yes, the answer is yes. PPD has accepted the $68 million offer, which has started that due diligence period. And that is just an offer. There's still quite a few hurdles to go through. That campus includes on the map here, the highlighted red number 1, which is a empty parcel. It's a future something. We're on record here, John, so. It is a future developable parcel there, and I think the initial intentions would be for the city to engage in an RFP in the development process there. Number 2 on your screen is the office building, which is currently plus or minus 371,000 square feet, 12 floors, and includes 240 parking spaces. Actually, this is 280. These numbers are off too. 200, I'll just go with 240 parking spaces underneath and a 35 space surface lot right there on the edge. Visitor surface lot, right here, 12 floor building. And then part of that taxable or that taxed parcel there currently is the kind of a shining light there on the corner, number 2 in the 1,022 space parking deck. And number 3, which is another future developable track, currently a 240 plus or minus 10 or 15 spaces surface parking lot there. Due diligence period has started. We've engaged, I don't have the contractor's name, but we've engaged a contractor to do a very, very detailed full facility assessment. That's structural, that's engineering, that's mechanical. That's all inclusive of basically what's included in this purchase, what it's going to cost the city to operate, maintain any kind of current CIP needs, etc.
You may not have the answer to this question yet, but in the past, PPD has been very exclusive of their parking resources. Is the city going to be more inclusive when they take over the operations?
At this juncture, I would say that the parking deck would be planned to be open as a public parking asset. Initially, what happens with underneath the building would probably service strictly the building
Absolutely.
tenants.
Yep, understood.
That could change in the future, of course, if the need arises, because obviously if the need's there, you don't want 240 spaces sitting empty on the weekends, right?
Absolutely.
I would say initially that surface lot could be utilized as a parking asset as well. Given that the idea would be to probably develop that parcel in the future, 3 to 5 to 10 years, something like that. But I think the parking deck as it stands now would be, the intention would be to have that no different than Market Street, 2nd Street, River Place.
And when is estimated time for you guys to secure this?
Per my understanding, July 31st, August 1st. From what I've been told, we'll have a fairly clear path late April, early May. There's the LGC hearing. I may not be speaking wrong. The LGC meeting, final LGC meeting, local government commission, I believe is May 2nd or May 4th. But leading into that meeting, we should have a clear path as to how things are going. But I think the official closing would be, if it comes to fruition, July 31st, August 1st. The intention would be for all or most of the city offices to relocate into this building, minus operations center, down River Road, minus fire, minus WPD. All the other 8 buildings that house city employees scattered about throughout the city would get relocated and centralized into the office building here. And the intention currently would be to take those 8 properties that would then be vacant and dispose of them through the public process.
Okay.
Whether it be closed bid or whatever that public process is. That's 305 Chestnut, the building we're sitting in now. 315 Chestnut, the Park and Rec property on Willard, Park and Rec across the street, and then 2 or 3 others.
Can I ask one more
Sure.
question? So you guys, I believe, have a few small properties north of Salvation Army on water that comes into, across the street from PPD, basically directly across the street from number 2. And then out towards MLK. Do you have any idea what those are going to be repurposed for?
So that is, so you bring up a couple good points. So city just purchased the Salvation Army building. I don't have any information on that as it stands. Just north of the Salvation Army, there's 3 parcels that are being considered the Gateway project.
Yep.
There are current discussions with East West Partners. Again, they were awarded that RFP pre-COVID. COVID kind of stalled things out, as well as there's a major shift in the office dynamic and a whole host of other things. I think you'll see some public information come out with an MOU between the city and East West Partners in the next 8 to 12 weeks. But it would be I'd say heavy development potentials for residential, office, hotel, all of the above.
Similar to what it was before.
I think the original RFP proposal that came through was a mixed use of residential, office, and on the south parcels closer to CFCC. And the north parcel was a hotel and some minor retail. I believe there's probably going to be some changes to that, but a mixed use development.
Thank you.
I do know that they did receive there's a term sheet in the works with Publix also.
I've heard grocery store.
Yeah. Mhm. Doesn't mean it's a done deal, but it's at least gotten to that level.
And then I have a question.
Chance, what is the basic rationale for the city to buy all these parcels?
Great question, Peter, and I hope I answered this correctly. Number one, we've got 9 different departments spread out in 8 different buildings. So first and foremost, it's a centralized consolidation of city staff into one location. Number 2, we had worked with an architect on a rehab of 305 Chestnut Street, where a majority of the city offices are currently. to basically do the same thing, consolidate all 8 departments and, 200 plus employees into that one centralized location with some parking on site. That came out to be, I believe, a little over $100 million in estimated funding that's needed for a rehab of 305 Chestnut. So if you look at the potential value here at 305 Chestnut, if you're looking at $100+ million rehab, this purchase here would be cheaper than rehabbing its current offices at 305 Chestnut. Plus, it gives us a much needed parking asset on the north end to serve not only the city's needs, but the public needs to the park, the public needs for growing CFCC, as well as the developmental needs across the street at the Gateway. And at the same time, not only is it a value in terms of the cost variance of rehab versus this purchase, Peter, but then it also allows the city to offload the other 8 properties post-purchase and get those back onto the taxable rolls with the county and city, and potentially redevelop those properties as well. So it's kind of a win-win.
Okay, and we're dealing with Thermo Fisher. I mean, their purchase of PPD is done, right?
Correct. It's officially Thermo Fisher per my understanding. I think we're using both interchangeably just because of the history of PPD up there.
Okay, thank you.
And then another note, the intention would be for PPD to back lease, I think, 2 to 3 floors for a 3-year period. So they would remain on site for at least 3 years as it stands right now. That could change.
We ran some numbers on it when Bill presented it. The building itself, guys, this purchase price, well, for the whole thing, but when you run heated square footage, it's about $179 a foot. To build that building now is about $300 to $350 a foot, and that doesn't include the value of the land and the parking deck. So technically, it would push the price of the building down to around $100 a foot when you offset the other assets. So it's unique, and it's wonderful that the city has that need, because like Chance said, to go out and try to build this now would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and Terry, you bring up a good point. And when you look at the kind of the overall value of this potential acquisition, just to build that 1,000-space parking deck without land acquisition, hard costs of $25,000 per space to build, plus soft costs of design, architecture, all this, you're looking at a potential $30 million value right there, just with that single parking deck alone. So that's nearly 40+% of that total potential purchase price.
I did have one quick question. With the development of parcel number 1 and parcel number 3, is staff going to recommend that parking be required for those parcels that will handle adequately what needs they will have, so it doesn't eat into the spaces on the two?
Great.
Maybe I can invite you to those meetings, John. That's great.
As will I.
Currently in the CBD, there are no parking requirements through planning and zoning. So I'll start with that. Second, we are currently looking at models of what we feel the building's needs are and what the parking deck can accommodate, in addition to future shared parking usage. The good thing is it's really geared right now with a potential purchase. Is, those office users are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, 7 to 3. And, those parking spaces clear out every night and are pretty much wide open after 5 o'clock and on the weekend. So you've got a perfect situation for shared public use outside of those office users. So I think you've you've nearly got 1,000 space parking deck that can service the needs of the entire north end after hours and on the weekends. So I think depending on what happens to those developable parcels, I think there's a shared parking option, so long as we don't over allocate what we've got there.
And then one more easier question. Does the city have a projected percentage of the building that you're going to use? How much are they left?
Not in stone right now. I think we're looking at somewhere between, 4 to 6 floors roughly. I think we're looking at current needs plus a very, very long-term growth strategy. Similar to the parking, we don't want to over allocate the building and then the city have space needs 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and we're having to look into remote options like we are now.
Smart.
So 4 to 5 floors roughly initially.
Okay.
And then other office tenants potentially in 2 to 3 floors, if I'm doing my math right.
Thank you.
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's a pretty exciting time. Big change to the north end. I think it could be a very positive change to the north end. If this does come to fruition, it will be a huge change to parking and DPAC. If this comes to fruition, I think there's going to be a lot of items coming to DPAC related to the parking assets here as we kind of see this get flushed out and potentially be a purchase or not.
And Chance, I know previously we had a parking advisory vendor, Kimley Horn, on kind of standby to help us with the growth of the city. Is that something that we can elicit their services to help us navigate? Because obviously, like you mentioned, this is going to be a huge change with Live Oak being there and now city offices. It's a huge change to that dynamic. Are they engaged and can assist with planning?
Great question, Len. They are currently engaged with my department on the parking side of this potential acquisition right now. We ran some models with them, pre-COVID of just the north end and the parks opening at that time. This plays into those models, and I think what we probably continue to do is to take what happens here with this campus and work with them to help us draft a plan on 4th Street, 5th Street, residential parking, metered parking, and your original question of how we kind of capitalize and help the event parking on the northern side of that area. So, yep, they're engaged.
Good. All right, any other?
Just one other item, how parking would work in terms of the startup as of August 1st to be determined. I think the potential city relocation of its staffing and offices would probably be a 6 to 12 month period. I've been looking at that parking deck for 6.5 years, so I'm gonna look to get Jeff and I's hands on that thing as of August 1st. Probably if it does come to fruition, at least for event parking. So we'll keep DPAC.
Are there any known issues with it? Is it ready to go turnkey?
It's now built in 2006, so it's got some age. It's a little bit younger than the Market Street deck. I think there's probably with any deck of that age, there's probably some minor structural stuff going on. As far as I know, nothing major, but there's probably some rebar that's popping out, some concrete repairs. We currently don't know the maintenance history of the power washing, the sweeping and stuff like that.
It has been well maintained from what I've seen.
I think the positive is it hasn't been utilized by 1,000 public vehicles daily for 17 years. So it hasn't had the wear and tear that say Market and 2nd Street have had on it through the years. So I think that's beneficial.
And it'll be faster because we're going to test gateless. We're going to test gateless with technology and pay by phone.
We've had a discussion about that. So
There we go. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, concerns about the PPD acquisition? All right, moving on, updates, Chance.
All right. I put these together very fast last night, so I'm hoping all of my numbers are accurate. If I find a mistake on the Q2 FY23 financials, I will certainly bring it back to DPAC. I wanted to start with kind of the parking deck benchmark numbers. Because with our fee increases last August, there was a lot of public outcry of, with these new outrageous parking fees, so to speak, we're not coming downtown. There's other places to go in the city. So I wanted to start with through the end of December, just to show some of these numbers. So compare year over year, our total parking deck transactions, Market, Second, River Place, are up by about 3.5% or 6,000+ transactions between FY23 and FY22. So the removal of that 90-minute grace period and the increase of the parking fees has not had any visual detrimental effect, at least on the parking side to downtown. The numbers are still up, and from what I'm gathering are trending still this way through February. So that's a positive sign. Another thing I wanted to point out was with the removal of the 90-minute grace and a revision down to 30-minute grace at Second and Market, it's still 15% of total ticket transactions. That's still a pretty big number. Nearly 30,000 folks have come through those two decks and still not had to pay a dime to get out. So 30,000 of those nearly 200,000 transactions have come through and been in and out in 30 minutes. So that's still a pretty high number. It's actually higher than I anticipated it to be. As you can see, it's dropped in half. I think we estimated, not really knowing how that was going to trend, we estimated it would be down to 5-10%, but it's still 15%, and that still tells me that people are utilizing it for the 30-minute grace and can get in and out to do their quick business downtown when and if needed for that. Overall revenues through Q2 are up. Give me a second here. Up about 28%, 2.8 million FY23 versus almost 2.2 million FY22. On-street revenues are up on the meter side 20%. If you recall, we went from $1.50 to $2 per hour. That's nearly equated to that fee increase there. And we'll see in the next slide, activity hasn't increased on the on-street side. It's actually been a subtle drop. Citations are up big. Citations are up 63%. And that's the biggest collection number we've seen, in the 5-year history we're looking at here. Big increase from the last 2 years because we were still coming off COVID. And there's a natural, 90-day to 120+ day period for the kind of the life cycle of a citation and the collection of that citation. But that 304,000 is higher than the previous 4 years. We probably need to look into that a little bit because you don't necessarily want to see that. It tells me that more people are probably playing the cat and mouse game and trying to get in and out without paying. Or the contractor is just really out there, more focused, fully staffed, and just citing more than they were before. So we'll try to dig into that and see where that lies.
Next month, can we maybe get a report from Park Wilmington on what the breakdown is? Is it they never paid or they did pay and then they broke their time limit? Could we see a report?
Sure. Yeah. Kind of a reflection here. We've dropped the on-street hours purchase has dropped 2.5%. Unfortunately, we don't have a real-time tracking of the actual number of vehicles at these on-street spaces. We've really tracked it by on-street hours purchased. So that
Is that affected by the Front Street work though?
Possibly, consider we lost
A lot of parking on Front Street.
nearly 40 meters for a period of over a year or almost a year. Absolutely. But a small, it's a small drop, subtle drop there, but compared to some of those parkers also have gone into the parking decks because it's obviously it's $1 an hour versus $2 an hour, which is what you want. So I think every time we've gone up with the on-street rates, we always see a subtle drop and an increase. So they're kind of relative together. But we'll definitely continue to monitor that. Off-street, we've seen some big increases. The decks are up 1.3 million versus almost 1.1 million, which is an 18% increase. And the lots are up nearly 50%, 378,000 versus 249,000 previous year. So some of that's related to obviously the fee increases, but we're still seeing that increased activity downtown. So it hasn't gone anywhere. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions or concerns?
I think the other question I would have, maybe, I don't know if we can look at it next month, is what is the breakdown between pay by phone, who's using pay by phone via meters? I just trying to dig into the citation accounts here and like what's going on. I think we talked about it several years ago, trying to get more engagement from pay by phone and getting more signage out there that like use your app or pay online or whatnot. And as we try not to spend more money on meters and push people towards using their phone, it'd be interesting to see how we can enhance that.
Yeah, we track that usage. I don't have that one in my head, but we can certainly bring that. There's been at one point in my 6 years of being here, there were some hefty increases with the pay by phone usage. I think those have kind of leveled out, but there's still a steady year over year.
It'd be awesome to
We
see
can bring
more
that.
engagement from them at like, broadcasting themselves at Live Oak or whatever they got to do to get people to, anyway, thank you.
Sure. On that subject, part of the RFP, we are encouraging additional pay by phone, pay by cell options as well, so that it's not just pay by phone out there. There are additional options. So, a good example of someone coming from Washington, DC, where Park Mobile is, instead of downloading a second app while they're visiting Wilmington for the weekend or the week, they'd be able to utilize Park Mobile because they already have it on their phone and really have that choice of the cell provider. So there's still some to be determined there, but we are encouraging through the RFP some additional options there.
Nice.
Any further updates? Chance, you good?
Yeah, updates. Oh, no, sorry. I guess we're still in the update section, just not the financial. Apologies. Second Street CIP. There has been a lull in progress with the west side stairs. I was hoping they would have been open by now, but there were some engineering, I wouldn't call them challenges, but our third-party engineer representing the city, there were some adjustments made in the stairs, and we needed the contractor's engineers to certify, and then our engineers to then approve that certification on top. Safety, stability, all that stuff. We should have the stairs completed, I think, in the next 2-week period and open back up if all goes well. Then the repairs will start on the east side stairs. And at the same time, while both of these are going on, we've got a full LED lighting retrofit coming in with this project as well. So I'm hoping by the March DPAC or April DPAC, other than some punch list stuff, we're done with this phase. And I think the LED lighting is going to be a huge improvement over there. Update on parking operator RFP that went out on January 31st. Due, I think, the first or second week in March. Anticipate a recommendation coming to DPAC the March or April agenda, and coming to council probably late April, or early May with a formal recommendation of an award for that contract and RFP. And Stature Engineering, we've engaged with on a visual structural survey at both Market and the Convention Center parking decks. We had a visual survey at Market Street 3 years ago, so we're going to update that. And Convention Center really hasn't had a formal survey since its construction. So we're going to have an initial survey there and take those surveys into hopefully specifications, bid, and start that work, I'd say in the next calendar year, both locations. I don't think there's any crazy stuff happening at Market Street. Last time we had the survey 3 years ago, it's in pretty good shape. Some expansion joints that have failed up top with water, and then some waterproofing on the top levels, and just minor stuff kind of throughout. Convention Center's got a few challenges. And we'll see with that one, because the challenges not only come with the construction, but if it turns out to be large areas of waterproofing and stuff like that, that's tricky, because regularly we fill that parking deck with events down there. So there could be some challenges with that one, but I'll keep DPAC up to date. And last but not least, I'll hand it over to Jeff with a few other city operational updates.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. I'm gonna try to follow my boss, Mr. Dunbar's amazing presentation. I had 2 updates that I wanted to share with you. The first one is the Brooklyn Arts Center Church and Annex reached out, had to be this summer maybe. They reached out and they were having difficulty getting their wedding events, other events handled at the venue at 4th and Campbell. They were placing white cones out, trying to keep it cleared out. They were trying to make a way for it to happen. The owner reached out to me and Chance and was like, can you do anything to help us? I don't think I'm telling tales outside of the room right now, but it takes the city a minute to move on things. And long story short, we just got it implemented last Tuesday. They have a Friday through Sunday sign for 30 minutes from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a 45-foot space between 4th and Campbell. And the owner happened to come out. It was Ty Early's last day on the job. I don't know if you know Ty. He's the sign guy for the city. And the owner was ecstatic. His name is failing me right now. Anyway, first update is 4th and Campbell is handled. I wish I had a sign to show you. Very pretty sign. And the other important piece to this is, as the Brooklyn Arts District continues to grow, other people can use that loading zone for what they have to do. So I was very happy to see that come to fruition. The second update is, we had talked about this probably about 2 DPACs ago. The 2nd Street lot, we have a camera installed there that is 2 weeks away. We're dealing with Johnson Controls. I suspect it'll be mid-March. We have 6 cameras that we're getting ready to install there. Currently, we have the pole up. They have power. And I won't get you into the weeds with fluid mesh and getting stuff, access to the milestone server stuff. But anyway, we are imminent with the camera install at 2nd Street lot. The cool thing about this install is you've got eyes on the sidewalk. if you're familiar with that lot, it's a little bit dark over there by the Village Market grocery section. And you forgot the ability to zoom in and capture plates and help WPD solve stuff if they need something solved. So I'm very excited about where we are. So Brooklyn Arts District is coming together. We have a new commercial loading zone, and Second Street lot has a camera system. I am saying mid-March, the camera should be in place. Are there any questions on this at all?
Just to add to Jeff on the camera, I think he touched on it, but just to reinforce, that'll be the last remaining kind of parking asset that we didn't have security cameras and a visual on. And that will be 100% tied in to WPD Sting Center. We'll give a full 360 view. We'll have north side, west side, south side, as well as the sidewalk view on that. So that's a kind of a donut hole that's been missing in some of the core of CBD's visual in terms of security cameras and street cameras and parking cameras. So I think that's I'm not sure why it took us so long to get there, but that's going to be a huge positive for everyone on that one.
Yeah, I just say really well done. It's really exciting. Really exciting.
I just want to chime in with like one more piece. I wish you could have seen the owner's face. His name is failing me. He was running into a nightmare with people parking on that 4th Street. He couldn't get wedding stuff planned, and just me being a new guy to the city, I'm just happy to see like progress. And this guy was like over the moon with how fast it got implemented. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
I think his name is Jay Tatum.
Yeah.
And for some of the old timers on the committee, we've had many discussions about them illicitly utilizing parking cones through the years for food trucks and vendors and all sorts of stuff. So hopefully this is a good progress. So good job, Jeff.
Jeff, is it possible that I could get a copy of like the specs on your cameras?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I don't make your eyes like glaze over with like talk about Hanwha, access stuff, but yes, I can get you.
Email's fine.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
I can do that.
Yeah, we've got a new camera now that's even better than what we've just recently installed over the last few years at the parking decks. Like the Hanwha camera that Jeff mentioned, like it's got a pretty darn clear visual.
What technology's supporting the cameras in the back end? That's
My understanding is Hanwha is top of the line, the best thing.
Milestone.
what is it?
Milestone.
Milestone. Thank you.
Yeah, it can integrate into the server, and WPD can access everything we're doing at that with the new camera install.
Yeah, the parking's got like 3 servers that's tied into it through Milestone. There's a master server, and I think Sting might even have their own server. There's like 5-6 different servers that have Milestone loaded on it.
Is it doing LPR through the camera feed?
We have a few LPR cameras at the gates through that feed. It doesn't actively track licenses, but we can zoom in and get license plates.
That's the next step. That's the next step is you guys figuring out, getting the LPR feeds through the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Feeding it. I know you got to keep it separate. So Sting gets what they want for their hot lists for LE purposes, but then we get it for citations and our scofflaws.
You are talking to a true LPR guy.
All right, let's do it. I like it.
License plate recognition is the future, man.
Good. That's exciting stuff.
Yes,
That's
sir.
good.
Yes, sir.
And we're saving taxpayer money by feeding LE and parking. So
Anything else with city updates? Chance, I just have one quick question. Azalea Festival is coming up. Do we need to do anything on our behalf? I know in the past we've had to bless some lot usage and some
Per my understanding, we are good to go. There was a comprehensive MOU between the city and the Azalea Fest that was voted on and approved by council 3 years ago, maybe. That basically allows them usage of everything they had to come year by year to request, including the Second Street lot. We have reached out to the two owners that own that lot, and just a reminder, the city leases the Second Street lot. Owner has approved the non-parking use. Haven't seen a layout or anything like that, but we should be good to go on the city side and DPAC side in terms of approvals and all that fun stuff.
Awesome, thank you. So I'll just move forward with organization updates, CFCC. I don't know if you saw it in the news or not, but we are up 4.3, I think, percent, which is huge after the pandemic. We are one of the top community colleges in the state, and yeah, thank you. No, 4.3. Yeah, so most community colleges post-pandemic are down 20 to 25%. So the fact that we are up even just slightly is huge. Our events are going crazy. I think for March alone, we have 70 plus. So it's very exciting times for us to come back post-pandemic and be so strong and see all the faces back on campus. We continue to struggle with the 3rd Street Bridge. And I appreciate you, Lieutenant Nichols. I saw you out there on the corner of 3rd and Campbell, I believe, this morning, trying to assist us. I believe DOT is down there today doing another cleanup. Obviously New Hanover County is, and that will be addressed with the library and New Hanover County update, are working diligently, but we really appreciate these resources coming to our assistance, because it has drastically impacted our students as well as our guests to the Wilson Center. So I do appreciate you being out there. I saw you personally this morning dealing with people. So we really appreciate that support. So we'll move on to CVB.
We as well have multiple events coming up in the next month, but I'll just hit the highlights with a couple of the larger ones. The North Carolina Association of ABC Boards is bringing about 400, 500 people in the second week of March. They'll be here for several days. And then coming up on February 24th and 25th, the 2023 Novant Health Wilmington Marathon will be all over town pretty much, but mostly downtown. That's it.
Thank you, sir. DBA.
Yeah, well, first of all, the comments on the street opening and the park opening recently, Bijou, have been outstanding. The downtown merchants have come back and said they were really thrilled with the way the second phase moved forward. And so it's just all good. We're kind of in a little bit of a lull. I think there's one event that Cool Wilmington is getting ready to host this month, but we're kind of in the quiet phase right now. We're pulling out of the winter hunker down, they call it. So everything's good downtown.
Thank you, ma'am. New Hanover County.
So we had that amended county ordinance passed. That's gonna really impact the unsheltered folks down at the parking deck. We've seen great improvements. Dean Olinger, First Sergeant Dean Olinger is here kind of to fill us in a little bit about that as a representative from the sheriff's office. But just from what I've seen, I've been very pleased and very proud of all the work that the city and the county has done. And you can speak to more on that.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. My name is Dean Olinger. I'm a first sergeant with the sheriff's office, and I actually represent Parks and Gardens. We have 6 deputies in Parks and Gardens, but how I was pulled into this a little bit because that corner area right there at 3rd and Chestnut is technically a park, which is connected to the library. So now I've been, tasked with being a liaison with with Rebecca. That falls under support services. I'm in a whole different division, which is the patrol division, but I'm willing to help. And so when that ordinance was passed by the county commissioners, the sheriff was adamant, for the safety and the security of the citizens and the people that are actually out there as well, to enforce the county ordinance. But his plan was not just to go in there and boots on the ground. We want to also help. That was the main thing. So we've been working with Jack Morris. We got his cell phone with Block to Block, the street outreach program that the county established, which is a pilot program that's still in effect till I think 2025. So we've been getting in contact with them, and also the new building on Medical Center, Healing Hands, correct. And I think one of the deputies just referred someone there last night. So speaking of that, so Tuesday we did go out there. We spoke to a couple of the people that were homeless. We made an announcement in reference to the county ordinances and the unattended baggage, the urine smell in the stairwells, and the people that were coming up and down the stairs from the businesses that were working. They were concerned. We made an announcement in the library that any unattended items that were out there were going to be discarded. They were very respectful. They were very cooperative. They were very nice. They understood. I think the last incident with the stabbing and a few other instances we've had in the past, it was adamant that we needed to go out there. But like I said, we've been working with them, and with the other, also got an email that we're handing out. I just want to share it with you, with the mental health and substance abuse services. So it's basically a sheet that we'll hand them. Hey, this is what you can do. If you are homeless and you're willing to get that help, these are the resources that we have. The sheriff has been out there. He and I went out there last night around 5:30 and spoke to a couple of people. He's been out there 2 times a shift, let them know what the county ordinance states and what he expects. The bailiffs, there's a lot of bailiffs that actually park in that parking lot too and walk to the courthouse. So we've told the bailiffs, if you see something like that, give us a call so we can address it. But also with the deputies that are assigned to the housing task force, the mobile field force, the downtown task force, the deputies there, and also the deputy that's assigned to the library itself that falls under support services. So I think that's key to have. It's a group effort, and we don't want it to be a Band-Aid. We want it to keep going like this, so that way people can walk down the stairs, can walk down the sidewalk without stepping over stuff that they don't need to step over, or smell the stuff that they smell. The other day, I saw 2 kids actually playing checkers, the big checkerboard that I haven't seen that in years. And I think because they feel they feel safe. And so other than that, just working with the community and sharing information with Rebecca, and kind of being a liaison, letting her know what's going on. And I think that's key. The Lenore employees, Lenore, am I saying that correct? Lanier, okay, I apologize. They've been very, very thankful. They've been waving ass. They've been thanking us. I think they have they had a hard time with it as well. And the citizens, I met a lady yesterday when I was on foot patrol out there around 8:30, and she had a mask on. And she usually has a mask. And she said, I could finally take my mask off because I don't smell the things that I smell when I was walking to work, coming down the steps. So again, it's a group effort between the city and the county with their task forces and the deputies assigned there. So I think we're doing good and a work in progress.
What is the new county ordinance?
Yeah, correct. So the new county ordinance is basically in reference to anything that's loitering, or anyone that's loitering on that street, on 3rd Street, with the parking deck, the sidewalk area, the parking lot, and also the library itself and the exterior portion. And I don't have the county ordinance with me, but I can bring that at the next DPAC meeting.
Peter,
And both of those are all of those, the county ordinances, I'm sorry, I apologize. And the county ordinances was also attached to the wall. I think there's 4 or 5 signs that refers to that county ordinances as well. And then a notice of what they're supposed to do at that property.
I believe it's
3834 and
Okay.
3835. So,
thank you.
camping, utilizing tents, bedding, cooking equipment is prohibited at all times. Occupying the property is prohibited from 10 PM to 7 AM. And personal items left unattended at any time are considered abandoned, and subject to disposal. That's the part that was amended to that ordinance that the county already had in place.
Thank you.
And one thing I just want to mention, I know our college resource officers have been out with a lot of the assisting agencies who tend to feed the homeless at the county library. I know New Hanover Sheriff's Office as well as city has been informing them, but that's another level of community outreach that they're doing as well, is that a lot of the local agencies have become accustomed to the homeless population being in front, especially in front of the library, also underneath the bridge, but especially at the library, and tend to bring them resources to them at that location. So I do know, in coordination with the sheriff's office, our resource officers have been trying to work with those agencies as well to try to designate locations that the unsheltered population can go to instead of being delivered resources. So that is another part of this whole situation, because if they continue to serve meals there, it's defeating the purpose of everything that law is trying to do and that county is trying to do. So I just wanted to make a note of that, you guys.
Correct. I appreciate that. And Lieutenant Granda, I speak very highly of him. He actually got in contact with 2 organizations that's been feeding them. And I think one is going to start feeding them at Mother Hubbard. Is that on Red Cross Street?
Yep,
Is that correct?
yep.
4th and Red Cross. And I think there's someone that's working with the hub. I don't know what that, I think that's something with the resources as well too. So they understand as well and they want to help out. So that's correct. And I forgot to mention that. I
Yep.
apologize.
Yep.
And there was one this morning that I saw move in front of Salvation Army
Okay.
that's normally in front of
Okay.
the library.
Okay.
They were down there, so that is gonna help.
Yeah, well, I know yesterday we had at lunchtime, they were feeding them at the corner of 3rd and Red Cross, which is very dangerous because they are right at a major intersection. So we're working through that as well. So just know that that's part of the grand picture as well. So, all right, anything else from New Hanover?
That's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ro.
Roe had our law enforcement appreciation dinner last night, which is always a big event for us at St. Mary's School. Going forward, the city seems getting ready to embark on a Fifth Avenue improvement project where they will reduce 2 lanes of traffic to a single lane plus a bike lane. So this is a long-term plan because it requires a lot of utility work from Duke Power to get ready for the resurfacing and the relining. So this will be going on a long time. But that's about it for Roe.
Thank you, sir. I think Terry stepped away, but WDI? Would you like to go ahead? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so our MSD Street Outreach Coordinator and Ambassador team performed a point in time count of the unhoused population across the CBD, including locations at the New Hanover County Library, Meadowlark Lemon Bridge. Populations continue to fluctuate, but overall our numbers are down from the peak summer season. Now with the enforcement that's happening both underneath the bridge and at the county library, our team is working diligently to keep the trash across the district at bay. We've been called for a few small encampment cleanups here and there as these enforcement activities are taking place. So we'll continue to monitor the situation, see where the outside encampments form, and just continue our efforts for outreach and cleanliness across the district. We knew this was going to happen. We were anticipating more business calls coming in to our ambassador about some of the issues that come with this encampment disbursement. So we'll be tracking and recording that as it happens throughout the month of February and March. We will be producing an MSD focused street sheet highlighting many of the services that our unhoused population can access. It's currently being drafted now, and we're utilizing this to hand out to MSD stakeholders across the Central Business District so they can understand how they can help support those in need, whether it's finding a meal, reaching a shelter, having access to an outreach coordinator, whether it be through our own Jack Morris or through the county's Getting Home team. We'll be distributing that hopefully by the end of the month, if not sooner than that. And working with the county's Getting Home team to make sure both of our street sheets align as well. Our MSD street outreach statistics have been revamped to provide more focused documentation of where we're moving folks and how we're interacting with them. And this is just all to provide a greater outlook of all the various activities that we do in the program. We've had 2 great success stories in January, and that was included in our MSD outreach report. However, that since you guys haven't gotten this, I will share. We were able to reunite one gentleman with his family, provide him a bus ticket to reach his family. And he is currently housed with them and getting the help that he needs from them. And then we also saw 2 individuals check themselves into the Wilmington Treatment Center to be treated for their substance abuse. And one has a plan to get into housing, and the other will be going through the various housing sheltering services upon completion of their treatment. We are offloading folks as well, or not offloading, but we are helping transport folks to the new healing place. They have several shelter beds that have opened up as of February 1st. So it came in good timing with some of these enforcement actions, I think. And we have transported several individuals there to stay in the shelter. It's open from 3:30 in the afternoon until 7 in the morning. There's showers, there's places for them to wash their clothing. There's hot meals provided to them. And if they should need to vacate the facility at 7 a.m., we are helping them with bus tickets to get to where they need to go after they get through the shelter. And then the county's Getting Home program is also providing a place for folks to store their belongings. So that's another great opportunity to keep the cleanliness aspect throughout the downtown, and also a place for folks to keep their belongings dry and out of the elements. So there's a lot of moving pieces around this. We continue to see success with New Hanover County, the city of Wilmington, and their Getting Home initiative, as well as our partnerships with WPD and the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office, who are working to enforce these new policies that have been set forth by our various agencies. I will tell you, I've seen the deputies and the officers at work firsthand. They are handling this with a tremendous amount of compassion, and some of these situations are really heartbreaking, but they're able to handle it, and it's not just an arrest away situation. The officers and the deputies are really trying to help and get them to where they need to be. And with that pretty much concludes my most recent update for the MSD.
Thank you. WPD.
Good morning. I'm pretty much just gonna piggyback off what First Sergeant Olinger stated. We're dealing obviously with the same thing that you all are very aware at the bridge. Today DOT is down there for their final major cleanup. They're taking everything from underneath there, not just the trash that's on the ground. We're taking mattresses, tarps. It's gonna be completely cleaned off. We're waiting on a word back from someone to hopefully get some of that graffiti taken off. Basically, in mid-January, DOT came down, put some signs up. Were warned and given that opportunity to say, okay, you got a couple weeks to make plans. Obviously, we know there's nowhere for them to go. With the county cracking down a little harder, it's tough because they would bounce from one to the other, and vice versa. So right now, what we're seeing is, well, since the first, our DOT has trespassed them from under the bridge. We've written 9 citations and made 1 arrest. Like I said, everything today is gonna be gone. Last night with the county ordinance in effect and us checking under the bridge regularly, we basically pushed them away from a lot of city properties, 305 Chestnut, Daleen Hall, City Hall, the courthouse, so these guys are, and if you're seeing them, we're seeing them all gathering now at the benches. There was yesterday, as he said, him and the sheriff stopped by and I think riled them up for us. So we went about 6:30 and they had some lip service, but it is, we're prepared to deal with that. So really, it's just gonna be trying to find these guys, the right resources to pair up with and get them the help that they need. We have, as Christina said, reached out and got a few to the healing place. We've made some good strides with some of these guys, but if just let everybody know that if you see them, hopefully they don't push further west into the business district in front of these businesses and to the college. But if you see them, please call us so we can address it. Thank you.
All right, guys. Go
I
ahead.
did forget to update
Sure.
a couple other things. Sorry, I got too focused on that. We did have some special projects in January from our ambassadors team. They pressure washed the right of way surrounding the convention center. So that's looking fresh and clean. And they also did an assessment of the ADA crosswalk indicator mats throughout the district. And that has been sent to the city. And then we have also identified 50 light outages as part of our monthly and weekly street outage assessment. So that's been sent out as well. And we did help with the ribbon cutting for Bijou Park and North Front Street. The businesses are very active now. I'm seeing a lot of activity happening on North Front Street and a lot of folks walking and sitting through Bijou Park. So that has been super successful and a great new added vibrant public space downtown. We still have some funding left in our microloan program. So if in our micro grant program. So if you guys know of any folks that need some lending opportunities, we still have that available. And we have reviewed the Bijou Park mural submissions and are hoping to announce a finalist here in this coming month. So.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to dismiss.
I'll make a motion to dismiss.
Thank you, Scott. Second,
Second,
thank you, sir. Everybody have a great day. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.